Hi, I would like to introduce Sarah Mullis. Sarah Mullis comes to us from here at Georgia Institute of EMS as one of our EMT and advanced EMT students. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Sarah?
I'm Sarah Mullis. I'm 48 years old, and I went through the basic and advanced program here at Georgia Institute of EMS the years 16 and 17.
Well, thank you
Okay.
for being here. And today we also have Mallory Burrows here today. She's also was one of our EMT and advanced EMT students as well. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mallory?
Well, I'm Mallory and I'm 34, and I started here the same time Sarah did, and I was here for the year 16 and part of 17.
And both of you made it through
Yeah,
the program?
all the way through.
All the way through.
All the way through.
And got jobs.
And got jobs.
That's
That's the great thing, right?
That's right.
And you survived your clinicals, right?
Survived
Oh,
the
yeah.
clinicals.
And today we're going to be talking just a little bit about your experiences through those clinical rotations and maybe give some pointers to some of our fellow new EMT students coming through, because it's going to be a scary thing, and we know
Yeah.
that, and we really appreciate your time. So let's go ahead and get started.
Let's do it.
Hey, we're here today with Sarah and Mallory, and Sarah and Mallory are here today to tell us a little bit about clinical rotations and from a student perspective of what to expect and how to prepare for clinicals. So thank y'all for coming today. Are y'all having a great day today?
Pretty good. Good day.
Awesome. Well, welcome here. Thank you so much for coming. And what we want to do is we're just going to dive into what the students expect so that they have a better understanding of what's this whole clinical process is. Just kind of think back to the time when you were starting as an EMT basic student and you had no clue of what to expect and those feelings and stuff. So I want us to kind of hopefully help alleviate some of those nerves, because you remember you were nervous, wasn't you?
Very nervous.
Oh, yeah.
It was nervous. You didn't know what to expect. It's like, are they going to pull my teeth out? What's going on? Are they going to yell at me? Or are they going to expect me to save a life today, or whatever? And hopefully we can help the students that are coming after you alleviate some of those nerves so it's a more enjoyable experience for them, which will hopefully facilitate their learning a little better. So first things first, though, getting ready for clinical is a big issue, isn't it? So when you were getting ready for clinical, what all did you have to do? What was the process? What hoops did you have to jump through to get there?
There's a lot of paperwork, number one. That's the biggest thing. And my advice for that is to start working on that now. No matter where you are in your course, if you're at the beginning of the course, start now. That's something you can work on early on in your course. You've got immunizations, you've got paperwork, you've got lots of paperwork to fill out. So I would just start doing that now. I know myself, I had immunizations I had to dig up from my high school, that elementary school, that I had to go way back and find. So that took a little while for me to do. So a big thing for me was just a lot of paperwork that I had to go back and find. So that was a big issue.
Paperwork.
Paperwork.
So start early.
Start early.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Don't wait till the last minute.
Exactly.
And then if you need immunizations, you can go ahead and get those in the process while you're waiting to get to that point where you're doing your clinicals. That way all that's out of the way and you're not waiting till the last minute rushing around trying to get everything done.
So for you, who was your biggest resource that you used to get all this paperwork done?
As far as
Was there an individual person that you could contact that helped you with the paperwork?
Steve Jones, the clinical coordinator, is who you contact, and he has everything you need, step-by-step instructions for every step of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he has all his contact information if you get stuck along the way, and he will help you with anything you need. And
He's usually pretty quick to respond back to
Very
emails
quick,
and calls
yeah.
too.
and very helpful, and just has everything you need to help you.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing here is getting ready for clinicals is extremely important. Start early so that you're not inundated, overwhelmed with it, because it could become overwhelming if you wait very late in the game, right?
It can be very overwhelming because there's so much information, so much you have to do. I mean, and a lot of people don't realize just getting your immunizations, you have to order your clinical t-shirt, you have to get your drug test. I mean, there's just a lot involved to be ready to get on a truck.
Mm-hmm. You have to get your malpractice insurance.
Malpractice insurance.
Background checks.
So it's a lot involved to be able to ride on a truck and go through your clinicals. So it's not something you want to wait to the last minute.
The good thing is that once you get it done, it's done, right?
It's done.
Mm-hmm.
It's done, and you could use that. A lot of that carries over to the advanced EMT
It
as
does.
well. So
It does.
you can a couple more hoops, but not quite as bad. But if you're a brand new advanced EMT that didn't do EMT with us, you would have to start early
Right.
to get it
Yeah.
done and stuff. So scheduling clinicals, what was that like? Once you got all your paperwork done, what did you have to do to schedule your clinicals?
We just had to get in touch with Steve
Yeah.
and set dates that would work with us and the schedule of wherever the clinical site we were going to make sure they had an opening. That's something else. Once you get to that point where you're doing clinicals, you don't want to wait and put them off to the last minute because there might not be a date available for when you need it to be.
And Steve also provides a list of all the clinical sites. And he makes that very easy as well. You know, you just give, like Mallory said, you give him your dates. And, I mean, he's usually pretty quick of getting back with you of if those dates are available. And if you don't wait till the last minute, you usually can get the dates that you provide him.
Mm-hmm.
So it benefits you to get in there sooner and have because you have
Exactly.
more options
Exactly.
It does.
to get things done
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. So once you got your clinicals scheduled, how many hours were the clinicals? I mean, how many hours did you have to set aside to go to clinicals?
For basic, it was 2 12-hour shifts. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you were going to go and be there for 12 hours.
Mine were never 12-hour shifts.
Mine weren't either.
What were they?
I had one that was 13 and then one that was almost 16. It just depends on what you're doing at that point of the shift, whether you get to go home or not.
And why were they longer? What happened to cause that? Were you? Go ahead.
There were different calls. We could be, one of them I remember, we were staged on a fire call,
Mm-hmm.
and we were there a good 8 hours of that whole shift because it was an apartment fire. So it was really late when I got back that night. And other times it might just be somebody else's emergency right when you're pulling back into headquarters. You
To
get
go
toned
home.
out again,
And you have to go.
and you have to go.
That's just part of this whole career, right?
That's
Oh,
right.
You know, we gotta. So basically, when someone has scheduled a clinical, they should try to block that whole day
Exactly.
and not plan anything for right afterwards.
Exactly. If you do an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., don't plan on getting off at 8 p.m. You just plan on 8 a.m. until. Because you are probably not getting off at 8 p.m.
Probably not. What about getting there though? If your shift starts at 8 o'clock, what time should you be there?
At least 15 minutes early. At least. I always got there 30 minutes early.
I did too. I always got there early, and then a lot of the time, at least one of the crew members that you're going to be working with that day's there, and they're already checking over their truck, and you can just go out and learn what's on the truck and where everything is, so you're not completely blind to that.
That's a good thing.
And they like when you get there early like that and go out and check the truck with them, and it gives you prior knowledge, because normally when you pull out of the bay, let's say if your shift starts at 8 a.m., when you pull out of the bay, that's usually when you get your first call, because they're so busy. And so there's not really any time for them to go over the truck with you. So when you're there early and you go over the truck, they can show you where everything is, and you've got a general knowledge of where things are, and you're not fumbling later. And so they appreciate the fact that you took time to get there early and learn where things are.
So, Sarah, where did you do your clinical?
At AMR in Stone Mountain.
And Mallory, where did you do yours?
I did mine at AMR.
AMR? What kind of, while you were there, once you got there and you pulled up to AMR in Stone Mountain, who did you report to?
When you walk in, you just go to the front desk and sign in, and they usually tell you to report to the supervisor once you do that. The supervisor will then assign you to the specific truck that they want you to ride on.
So the process was pretty easy?
Very easy.
It's very
yeah.
easy.
I mean, you can't miss it once you go in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever you got there, you reported to the front desk. They assigned you to a supervisor. Then a supervisor assigned you to a crew.
Right.
And then you check your truck off and learn the location of the equipment, make sure you have everything that you're supposed to have. And now you're ready to go run calls.
Right.
Now, as far as the equipment goes, what equipment did you bring with you?
I made sure I had my stethoscope was my main thing that I made sure I had. I think that's pretty much about all that I brought. Some paper, something to write with.
Okay.
All of your clinical paperwork you need, because you need to make sure you fill out a PCR for each patient.
You're going to need extra copies of that too. Don't make just a set amount for the number of patients that you need to check off. You're probably going to have more than that number.
Definitely.
So bring extra.
Bring extra PCRs for sure.
And make sure you get it all filled out while you're there.
Yes.
Make sure they sign everything.
Yeah.
You'll be turning around going back to get it signed.
So while you were there, you went out and you saw patients, I take it.
Yeah.
What types of patients did you see?
All kinds.
Without violating HIPAA.
All different types of patients. You'll have psychiatric patients that you'll see. I had OB patients.
Respiratory.
Children. Just
Heart
a little bit of
patients,
everything.
Yeah. You will definitely get a variety. For sure.
So do you feel like that aspect of the program, how did that bring things together for you? Did you ever have like an epiphany type moment? Because I know sometimes when you're in class, things are a little foggy, just doesn't make sense. But did you ever have like a moment when you were in clinical, like, oh, this is what they were talking about. This, I get it now. Did that ever happen to you? And if it did, can you give us an example?
I think I mean, yeah, you do have those moments on the truck. I think for me, I don't know about you, but for me, my first day on the truck, and probably for a lot of you watching, I was just terrified my very first day of basic. I felt like I didn't know anything. It's my very first day of basic on the truck.
And then you get there and you realize you know more than you thought
You do. You do. I just felt like I was just so nauseous that I was wondering if I would be able to even just, put a non-rebreather on somebody if I had to, But they're so used to the students being, they see students all the time, and they're so used to us riding on the trucks with them that they have such a calming effect, and they're just used to us being there, and they really take time with us, and they share so much with us.
They do. You learn a lot.
They do.
So they don't so they're there like as a safety net, right?
They are.
So they're not going to let you get in over your head, but they're going to challenge you a little bit to let you put some things.
They do.
They do. They let you go as far as you want to go, and they're there to back you up, and they step in if they see you struggling. They don't embarrass you in any way. They're there to catch you when you fall, because they know that you're going through school.
They've all been there, so they know.
And I like I said, my first day of basic, I was scared to death. I didn't think that I knew anything. But then my first patient, I just kind of I went for it.
So you had that moment with your first patient where it clicked.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, my ABCs, my patient assessment, it was just like my sample history, my OPQRST. It was just, I just automatically just started asking all the questions that we had learned, over and over. You're sitting in class going, why do I have to do sample history one more time? Well, that's why. Because you have to fill out these PCRs and, turn all this stuff in, and they have to fill it out on their computers and turn it in. So, you realize now this is why we did all this.
So it's all for a reason.
It's all for a reason.
Yes.
So how many, like in a day, how many patient contacts would you expect potentially? Because I know it's, you can't guarantee anything, right?
Right.
I mean, is it possible for you to go there and not run a call?
It's highly
very
unlikely.
It's not very likely.
I know my very first day, I had 8 or 9.
8 or 9?
My first day.
I think I had 7 my first day. But then again, my day started out as total chaos. My first call was a cardiac arrest as a basic.
Yeah,
Just straight out the door, cardiac arrest. First call
wow.
of the day.
Talk about jumping in the frying pan right away.
She's the code
It
magnet.
was. I am. It was the most chaotic thing I have ever been a part of.
But how did you? I mean, when you're there and it was chaotic, you were nervous a little bit.
Oh, I was nervous.
But did you run from it?
I did, and I just jumped right in like it was second nature. I wasn't. It was like, oh, well, this is what needs to happen. You automatically know what you're supposed to do, and you just kind of do it.
And freak out later.
Yeah, and then freak out later. Because that's what happened after all was said and done. I had to sit there a minute, and I was like, whew.
What?
Yeah, I was like, that just happened.
Time to run another one, right?
Yeah.
So when you're there, you're running a lot of calls, you're doing a lot of things. Is there anything like, did y'all go in the summertime, wintertime? When did y'all do your clinicals?
Oh gosh, I think I went in October. It was still
It was still hot.
It was still a little warm, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, for basic, mine were in October. I want to say they were October or November. And then for advanced, it was really cold.
So you
They were
could
like
get a
in
little
March. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's say in the warm months, what would you suggest for people to, just wear the uniform like you have on now? Just bring a rain jacket.
Definitely bring a jacket. Definitely bring a jacket.
What about in the winter time? Same thing, or should they wear long johns?
Just layers.
Layers.
Yeah. Maybe wear a long sleeve shirt under your student shirt.
A beanie cap, bring it.
Yeah.
I know I used to always have to have one because you don't know how long you're going to be out.
You
on
don't
the
know if
sun,
you're going
right?
to be stuck
Sunglasses.
outside.
Sunglasses.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So what about eating? Where did you eat?
Well, it just really depends. I always took my lunch number one, because you never know if you're going to have time to stop and eat lunch, and they're not obligated to stop.
No, they're not at all.
For you. So I always took lunch. I always took snacks. There were a couple of times that we did have time to stop and grab lunch. But there were times that we didn't have time to stop. And there were, you were just lucky if you had time to reach over in your bag and grab a bite of anything.
There was times we stopped, went in, and then had to leave before we could even get our food.
Yeah. So it just really depends on the day. But definitely take food, water, make sure you're stocked.
What about money? Should you bring some money with you?
Definitely
Yeah,
take money.
Take money with you. Take cash with you.
Cash, for sure. Make sure you have cash on you just in case. Leave all your valuables in your car. Don't have anything, on you.
When you say valuables, you talking
You know,
about leave
Like a
leave your
purse or
Yeah.
anything like that. You don't want to carry that on the ambulance.
I mean, take your ID or whatever you need out of that, but you don't want to carry like a whole wallet or a purse or anything.
So kind of like a man's wallet.
Yeah,
is
that would
what
work.
you suggest, because I know in my
Mhm.
career I knew a lot of lady EMTs and medics that carried a man's
Yeah.
wallet. And of course if you're a guy, you've already, most of them hopefully has a wallet.
Yeah, that's what I carry now, was something similar to that.
There's something, and I'm sure there's ladies have something similar
Yeah.
possibly out there. What about textbooks and stuff? Did you? Yeah.
There
you go. That's a good example there.
I mean,
and it's shiny.
It's blue. And it just holds, basic
debit
stuff, my driver's
card,
license, debit
a
card,
$20 bill.
cash.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's not bulky.
Did you bring your textbooks or anything like that?
I did. I brought my book. I don't think I had a chance to open it, but I definitely brought it with me. I brought other things that I could use to study, note cards and things that I had taken notes or whatever on. I had study apps on my phone that I used when we had downtime.
So you had your phone with you and stuff. When you have your phone, when did you have it out? I mean, did you keep it put away most of the time, especially in front of a patient?
Oh yeah, my phone never came out when we had a patient.
The only time the phone was out is if the truck was empty.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that was when, like, if I was doing a PCR and couldn't spell a medicine or something.
Couldn't spell. Looked up to find out what it was and what it was used for.
Hey Siri, how do you spell?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Because you don't want to touch your phone with nasty bloody
Right.
water,
No,
right?
you don't.
And stuff. So when you're there, like your first call was a cardiac arrest,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you had some serious calls too. Were you ever in a situation where you were asked to do something that you weren't comfortable doing? And if so, how did you handle it? Or how would you, and if you wasn't, that's fine, but what if, also put yourself in the place of a student that could be in that situation? What would you suggest them to do if they get in a situation where, hey, I'm not comfortable doing that yet, but it's something that needs to be done.
You can always mention that you're not comfortable doing it. Most of them are gonna, either take over or coach you through it. I know. I had no idea how to do a 4-lead at all when I went on there, and he's like, "Go ahead and hook the 4-lead up," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? What's that?"
And you're talking about the 4-lead EKG?
Yeah, for an EKG, and they showed me how to do it one time, and after that, it's pretty straightforward. You know how to do it, so if they ask, you can just jump right in. They're not gonna criticize you because you don't know how to do something.
Right.
I never was put in that situation. I know that I think when I did my advanced, I was still a little foggy, I guess, on doing IVs. And I just, when I first got on the truck, I told the paramedics, "Hey, look, I need to get some IVs, but, I'm still just a little, unsure. Do you mind me watching the first time you guys do an IV? Let me get a feel of how you do it." And they were like, "Sure, no problem. We'll do the first one, walk you through it." They're very helpful, very accommodating. And even the one paramedic I rode with, we had a break and he let me start an IV on him. So,
Oh, yeah.
if you are willing to learn and show that you're willing to learn, they are more than accommodating.
But if you're just sitting there like a bump on a log, they're not going to ask you to do anything.
So you need to be a little motivated.
You definitely need to be self-motivated. I even had my very first day as a basic, I rode with a supervisor. And we were going to a call, and we were just riding down the road to the call, and the supervisor was driving, and he turned around and he goes, "Hey, Sarah." I said, "Yes, sir." And he started asking me questions, and thank goodness I knew the answer to him. But, but he just knew, because when I got there and we got on the truck, I had just started asking questions immediately, and so he knew that I was wanting to learn, and so he started asking me questions.
Yeah, don't be scared to ask questions. That's what they're there for. When you're on their truck, is to answer any questions
Right.
you may have.
That's your time to learn, for sure.
So in order to get, in the EMT program, you have to get 10 patient assessments, at least 5 on the ambulance. But in the advanced EMT program, you got to get a lot of stuff done too. So what was your strategies to get everything done? All
For
those checkoffs.
advanced,
For advanced or basic.
Get started with your clinicals as early
as
you can.
possible.
Especially for advanced, right?
Especially
Oh, yes.
for advanced. Because one thing for sure that you have to have for advanced is to make sure that you bag a patient.
An unintubated patient.
An unintubated patient. And you don't know if you're going to get that patient or not. And like I had to, even though I had all my hours, all my patients, everything I needed, everything checked off, I still had to go back an extra shift to try and get my bag. So, don't wait till the last minute, get your clinicals early.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're there, be motivated, get up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't just sit there.
Yeah, don't just
Oh,
sit
yeah,
there.
just
Interact with the patient, interact with the medic and the EMT or other medic that may be on your truck. You can't just sit there and expect to get anything out of it.
Yeah. Did y'all for advanced EMT, did y'all go to the ER or to the urgent care center?
I did go to the urgent care first to just see. I was worried about how many medications. I was worried about not being able to give as many medications on the truck. So I wanted to see how many medications I could give at the urgent care. And luckily I was able to give a lot of medications at the urgent care and not have to worry about that as much on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of that behind me before I even went on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
But even while you're at the urgent care, it's important to get up, be on your feet.
Oh,
be ready.
yes.
Don't be sitting down waiting on somebody to tell you to do something. You
Oh,
should
absolutely.
be up asking to do things.
Always be proactive. And
When
let
they
me
come
tell
in
you,
with a chart, be ready to jump up with them.
because they report back to the school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they send a little report back to the school and stuff. So be proactive and keep moving. You know, keep moving and ask questions. Is a huge thing. So I know this doesn't happen often, but I guess it could happen. If you have downtime, what should you be doing?
Studying.
Studying.
Not playing on your phone.
Study drug cards. Study your book. Now that I did pull my book out when I went to urgent care. I had enough time where I could pull out my book and go over things that I was struggling with.
What about like other chores there? I know like you go to EMT school, you're learning to backboard people, start IVs and stuff, but in the real world as an EMT, we do all those things, but we also got to clean the truck
Oh yeah.
and stuff like that. So did y'all help with that? Were you
Mhm.
expected to help with that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would make sure that if we ever used the jump bag on a patient, I would make sure the jump bag was restocked, and we always used the pulse ox little bag on everybody, it seemed, and so
The pulse ox and the glucometer got used on everybody.
and so I would keep that restocked, and I would always help clean the truck after every patient.
And even at the urgent care, I remember one of the shifts that I done there, I even remember mopping when everything was done for the day.
Taking out trash.
Taking out trash, yeah.
So is there anything else that y'all would like to add, some advice that you'd like to give students?
Don't be scared to just jump in and help. If you're comfortable with what they're doing, just jump in and help them out, or say, hey, can I go ahead and run this patient? Because that's one of your checkoffs as an advanced, is to actually do a team lead. And if you're comfortable with the situation that it is, just jump in.
They want you to jump in, so do it. I remember on the advanced, one of my biggest fears was actually doing the verbal report, calling in and doing the verbal report.
That was scary.
I was scared to death to do that, and so we were going down the road, and the paramedic knew that I needed that checkoff, and I wasn't thinking anything about it. Well, she picked up the phone, and she just she was about to call, and she just handed me the phone, and I had no idea I was about to do that verbal report, and she just handed me the phone, and I about died. But I did it, and I called in the verbal report, and then after that she handed me the phone every time, and I called in the verbal reports for the rest of the day.
I know, after the first time I did, I was like, ooh, can I do it again?
I know, I was like, why was I so scared?
I know. It's so easy. It's so easy.
And then like when we got to the hospital, she happened to know the nurse that was working, and so when we walked up, she went to give the verbal report, and the nurse that was working, she was like, no, you give me the verbal report. And so then I had to, give the verbal report when we got there. And so don't be afraid, That's one of my biggest pieces of advice, is just don't be afraid. You're going to have to do it. Don't be shy. Just do it.
Go to the bathroom every time you get a chance.
Every time you get a chance, because you're going to go hours and not be able to.
I used to have a saying, you go when you can and you eat when you can.
Yes.
Yes.
Because sometimes you get busy several hours later.
Yep. For sure.
Well, thank y'all very much for your time today, and this is very beneficial and I know it's going to help students out there, help alleviate their nerves going into clinical, and help them have a more enjoyable clinical ride along. So thank you so very much, and
You're
we
very
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
I hope it helps.
Yep.
Awesome.
Cool.